You're about to send a text message, your finger hovers over the send button, you reread it, change a word, read it again, delete the whole thing and start over, or maybe you're in a meeting and you have an idea, a genuinely good one, but you stay silent because you're calculating. What if they think it's stupid? What if I sound naive? What if I'm wrong? Here's what's actually happening in these moments. You're not protecting yourself, you're disappearing yourself. And the cruelest part? The people you're trying so hard to impress probably aren't even thinking about you at all. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why you care so much what other people think, what your brain is actually doing when this happens, and most importantly, how to finally break free from this exhausting pattern. Because here's the uncomfortable truth we need to start with. The reason you care what people think isn't because you're weak or insecure or broken. It's because you're wired for survival. Your ancient brain doesn't distinguish between being rejected by your tribe and being judged by Karen from accounting. To your nervous system, social rejection is a threat. Thousands of years ago, being cast out of the group meant death. So your brain developed an incredibly sophisticated system to keep you safe, hypervigilance to what others think. But here's where it gets complicated. You're not actually responding to what people really think about you. You're responding to what you imagine they think. You're arguing with a jury that exists entirely in your own mind. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Think about the last time you sent an email and didn't get a response right away. Within minutes, your brain probably created an entire narrative. They're angry. I said something wrong. They're ignoring me. They think I'm incompetent. The reality? They probably just got busy and forgot to reply. You're exhausting yourself trying to manage perceptions that don't even exist. You're solving for variables that were never in the equation. And the most painful part, while you're spending all this energy managing imaginary opinions, you're betraying the one person whose opinion actually matters, yourself. Every time you silence yourself to avoid judgment, you're confirming to your own nervous system that who you really are isn't acceptable. You're teaching yourself that your authentic thoughts, feelings, and desires are dangerous. The is uncomfortable, but important. The person judging you most harshly isn't out there. It's you. Let me break down the specific patterns that keep you trapped in this cycle. Once you can see them clearly, they start to lose their power. Pattern number 1. The spotlight effect. You walk into a room and immediately feel like everyone's watching you. You're convinced they noticed your awkward entrance, your outfit choice, that thing you said 3 sentences ago. Here's what's actually happening. You're experiencing what psychologists call the spotlight effect, the belief that people are paying way more attention to you than they actually are. Research shows we overestimate how much others notice about us by roughly 200%. That outfit you're self-conscious about, most people won't even remember what you wore tomorrow. That weird thing you said, they forgot it 30 seconds later. Your brain is running a spotlight on yourself, then assuming everyone else sees what you see. But they're not in the audience watching you. They're on their own stage, running their own spotlight, worried about their own performance. The person who analyzes and judges every detail of your existence isn't other people. It's you. Pattern number 2, mind reading as self-protection. You've developed a sophisticated skill, predicting what others think before they think it. You read micro-expressions, analyze tone, search for signs of disapproval. You think this protects you. It doesn't. It imprisons you. Here's the thing that changes everything. You're not actually reading their minds. You're projecting your own self-judgment onto them. When you think, they probably think I'm annoying, that's not insight. That's you telling yourself you're annoying and outsourcing the voice to make it feel more credible. Think about someone you know who's genuinely confident, not arrogant, confident. Have you noticed they don't seem to pick up on the subtle judgments you're convinced are everywhere? It's not because people don't judge them, it's because they're not looking for it. They're not assigning negative meaning to neutral expressions. You're so busy defending against attacks that aren't happening, that you've created a reality where you're constantly under siege. Pattern number 3, the approval trade-off. Every time you choose what someone else wants over what you want, you think you're keeping the peace. You think you're being adaptable, easygoing, considerate, but here's what's really happening. You're making a trade. You're giving away your authenticity in exchange for temporary relief from the anxiety of potential disapproval. And the price keeps going up. First you agree to plans you don't want, then you're in a relationship that doesn't fulfill you, then you're living a life that looks good on paper but feels hollow on the inside. Each trade gets bigger because you've trained yourself that your own preferences are negotiable. Let me show you exactly how this shows up. You're asked where you want to eat. You say, I don't care, wherever you want. Seems harmless, right? But what you've actually done is communicated to yourself that your preferences don't matter. You've practiced making yourself small. Do this enough times and you forget you even have preferences. You've outsourced your entire decision-making system to other people's comfort. If you're recognizing these patterns in yourself right now, if you're thinking, this is exactly what I do, this is why I create this content every week. These aren't surface-level tips. This is the deep psychological work that actually changes your relationship with yourself. Subscribe so you don't miss these insights. Every week, I break down the patterns that keep you stuck and show you exactly how to rewire them. This is just the beginning. Now let me show you why this is happening at such a deep level. Pattern number 4. The performance trap. You've convinced yourself that if you just do everything right, say the right things, look the right way, achieve the right milestones, then you'll finally feel secure. But here's the trap. The goalposts keep moving. You get the promotion, but now you're worried about proving you deserved it. You get into the relationship, but now you're anxious about being good enough to keep it. You get the compliment, but you immediately discount it because they don't know the real you. This isn't about external validation at all. It's about the fact that you've made other people's approval the metric for your worth. And that's a game you can never win, because you can't control what other people think. Even if you could get everyone to approve of you, which is impossible, it wouldn't fix the core problem. You don't approve of yourself. Pattern number 5. Conflict avoidance as self-abandonment. You pride yourself on being the peacekeeper, the one who never causes drama. But, let me reframe this for you. Every time you avoid conflict to prevent someone from being upset with you, you're choosing their comfort over your integrity. You don't speak up when someone crosses a boundary because you don't want to seem difficult. You don't express a different opinion because you don't want to create tension. You absorb disrespect because addressing it might make things awkward. Here's what nobody tells you. The discomfort you're avoiding by staying silent is nothing compared to the resentment that builds from abandoning yourself. You think you're preserving the relationship. You're actually eroding it, and eroding yourself in the process. Because every time you betray your own needs to manage someone else's emotions, you're confirming that you're not worth defending. The relationships built on you hiding yourself aren't real relationships. They're performances. And you're exhausted because you're performing 24/7. Let's go deeper into what's actually happening in your brain when you care what people think. Your nervous system has 2 modes, safe and threat. When you feel accepted and approved of, your ventral vagal system activates. You feel calm, connected, open. When you sense disapproval or rejection, your sympathetic nervous system kicks in. Fight, flight, or freeze. Now here's the crucial part. Your brain doesn't wait for actual rejection to trigger this threat response. It responds to perceived rejection. And if you grew up in an environment where love was conditional, where you had to be good, achieve, perform, or people please to receive affection, your brain learned to constantly scan for signs of potential rejection. This creates what psychologists call a negativity bias on steroids. You're not just noticing negative cues more than positive ones, which all humans do. You're actively searching for evidence that you're not acceptable. A neutral expression becomes a judgment. Silence becomes disapproval. Someone being busy becomes rejection. Your brain is trying to protect you by predicting danger before it happens, but it's creating the very suffering it's trying to prevent. Here's the neuroscience. When you imagine being judged, your brain activates the same regions, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex and anterior insula, that light up during physical pain. Social pain is processed as real pain. So when I say caring what people think is painful, I'm not being metaphorical. Your brain genuinely experiences it as a threat to your survival. And there's another layer, the default mode network. This is the part of your brain that activates when you're not focused on a task, when your mind wanders. For most people, this network is involved in self-referential thinking, imagining how others see you, ruminating on past interactions, rehearsing future ones. If you're constantly worried about what people think, your default mode network is stuck in a loop of self-surveillance. Even when you're alone, you're not really alone. You're with an imagined audience, constantly being evaluated. Your brain has essentially created a 24/7 performance review of your existence. This is why it's so exhausting. You're using massive cognitive resources to manage a threat that's mostly imaginary. Your prefrontal cortex, which you need for decision-making, creativity, presence, is constantly hijacked by this surveillance system. And here's what makes this especially painful. The hypervigilance that once kept you safe. Maybe it helped you navigate an unpredictable parent, a judgmental environment, a situation where you genuinely needed to monitor others' reactions, has become the thing that's now imprisoning you. Your nervous system is still trying to solve a problem from the past. I need you to hear this. You are not broken. This pattern you're in, this constant monitoring, this self-editing, this fear of judgment, it made perfect sense at some point in your life. Maybe you grew up with a parent whose love felt conditional. Maybe you were bullied and learned that visibility equals vulnerability. Maybe you were praised for being good and punished for being authentic. Maybe you absorbed the message that certain parts of you, your emotions, your needs, your voice, were too much or not enough. You learned to survive by becoming who others needed you to be, and that was intelligent, that was adaptive. You did what you had to do. But here's what I want you to understand. The strategies that protected you then are now limiting you. You're not caring what people think because you're weak. You're doing it because you're still operating from a younger version of yourself who learned that acceptance equals safety. Your nervous system is still running old programming. It's still trying to keep you safe from dangers that no longer exist in the same way. And the shame you feel about this? That's just another layer of the pattern. You're judging yourself for being human, for having a nervous system that adapted to survive. Let me say this clearly. There is nothing wrong with you for wanting to be liked. Connection is a fundamental human need. The problem isn't the desire for approval, it's that you've learned to abandon yourself to get it. You think the problem is that you care too much. The real problem is that you've learned to care more about others' opinions than your own truth. This isn't a character flaw. It's a coping mechanism that's outlived its usefulness. And the beautiful thing about understanding this? Once you see it clearly, once you stop judging yourself for the pattern and start understanding where it came from, you can finally begin to change it. You're not trying to fix something broken, you're updating a system that was designed for a different version of your life. Alright, now let's talk about how to actually change this. Not surface-level advice, real, neurological rewiring. Step 1, name the voice. The next time you hear that voice saying, "They probably think I'm stupid," or "I shouldn't have said that," pause. Don't try to argue with it or suppress it, just name it. Say to yourself, "That's my inner critic," or "That's my anxiety talking," or even just, "That's the old programming." Here's why this is powerful. When you name the voice, you create distance from it. You're no longer identified with it. It's not, "I'm stupid." It's, "I'm having the thought that I might be perceived as stupid." That gap, that tiny space between you and the thought, is where your freedom lives. Practice this relentlessly. Every time the worry comes up, name it. You're training your brain to recognize this pattern as a pattern, not as truth. Step 2, reality. Test your assumptions. Your brain is making up stories about what people think. Let's start collecting evidence. When you're convinced someone is judging you, ask yourself, what actual evidence do I have for this? What did they actually say or do, versus what am I interpreting? Most of the time, you'll find you have almost no real evidence. You have a feeling, an assumption, a fear, but not facts. Then ask, what are 3 alternative explanations for their behavior that have nothing to do with me? They seemed distant. Maybe they're stressed about something in their own life. They didn't laugh at your joke. Maybe they didn't hear it. They didn't respond to your text. Maybe they're busy. You're not doing this to gaslight yourself into thinking no one ever judges you. You're doing this to break the automatic pattern of making everything about you. The truth is, most people are so absorbed in their own lives, their own worries, their own inner critics, that they're not thinking about you nearly as much as you fear. Step 3, practice small acts of authenticity. You can't go from people-pleasing to completely authentic overnight. Your nervous system would freak out, so we start small. Pick one low-stakes situation this week where you would normally defer to someone else's preference. And don't. Someone asks where you want to eat? Actually answer. Someone asks your opinion? Give it, even if it's different from theirs. Notice what happens in your body. You'll probably feel anxiety. That's your nervous system registering that you're doing something different, something it perceives as risky. But here's what you're teaching yourself. I can have preferences. I can express them, and I survive the discomfort. Each small act of authenticity is evidence to your nervous system that it's safe to be yourself. You're literally rewiring your threat detection system. Step 4. Expect and tolerate disapproval. This is the one nobody wants to hear, but it's essential. Some people will disapprove of you, and you need to learn to be okay with that. Not everyone is going to like you. Not everyone is going to get you. And that's not a problem to solve. It's just reality. The goal isn't to get everyone to approve. The goal is to stop needing everyone to approve. So practice intentionally. Express an opinion you know might be unpopular. Set a boundary you've been avoiding. Disappoint someone by saying no. And then, this is key, sit with the discomfort. Don't immediately try to fix it, explain yourself, or smooth things over. Just notice, this is what disapproval feels like. It's uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. You're expanding your window of tolerance. You're teaching yourself that you can handle being disliked and still be okay. Step 5. Build evidence of your own approval. Every day, ask yourself, if I weren't worried about what anyone else thought, what would I do? What would I say? Who would I be? Then do one thing, even something tiny that aligns with that answer. Wear the outfit you liked but thought was too much. Share the idea you were holding back. Pursue the hobby you were embarrassed about. Each time you choose yourself over imagined judgment, you're depositing evidence into your self-trust account. You're proving to yourself that your own approval matters. Keep a running list of these moments. Write them down, because your brain is wired to remember the times you were rejected or judged. You need to actively create a record of the times you chose yourself, and the world didn't end. Over time, this becomes your new baseline. Instead of "I need to make sure everyone approves," it becomes "I trust myself to handle whatever reactions come." Imagine waking up and the first thought isn't, "What do I need to do today to be acceptable?" It's just presence, curiosity about your own day. You're in a conversation, and you say what you actually think instead of calculating how it will land. Someone disagrees with you, and instead of spiraling into "they hate me," you just think, different perspective, and move on. Someone doesn't text you back, and you don't create a story about it. You just assume they're busy, because their behavior isn't a referendum on your worth. You set a boundary, and yes, the other person is disappointed, but you don't crumble. You don't rush to fix their feelings. You recognize that their disappointment is information about their expectations, not evidence that you did something wrong. You start making decisions based on what you actually want, not what will get the least pushback, and your life starts to feel like yours. Here's what actually changes. You stop spending 90% of your energy managing other people's potential opinions and start using that energy to build a life you don't need to escape from. Your relationships get more real, because the people in your life aren't in relationship with a performance. They're in relationship with you. Some relationships might fall away, and that's okay. They were built on a version of you that was never sustainable anyway. The ones that remain, they deepen. Because you're finally showing up as yourself. You become more creative, more spontaneous, more alive. Because you're not filtering everything through, "Will this be acceptable?" You're just responding to life as it comes. And the most profound shift, you stop feeling like you're constantly on trial. You stop waiting for the verdict. You start trusting that you're enough exactly as you are, regardless of who approves. This isn't about becoming someone who doesn't care at all. You're human. You'll always care what people think to some degree, but it stops being the organizing principle of your life. You care what people think the way you care about the weather. You notice it, it might influence your plans, but it doesn't determine your worth. That's what freedom feels like. If you've made it this far, you're not just watching a video, you're actively choosing to change your relationship with yourself, and that matters. You've just invested over 15 minutes in understanding yourself at a deeper level. Join us as we continue this work together. This community is full of people who are learning to trust themselves, to stop performing, to show up authentically, even when it's uncomfortable. Subscribe to be part of this ongoing transformation. You're not alone in this. Welcome to a space where you can finally stop pretending and start becoming. Here's your challenge for this week. Choose one moment where you would normally hide yourself, defer, or people please, and do the opposite. Express the preference, share the opinion, set the boundary, and then notice what happens. Not just externally, but internally. Notice that you survived it. Notice that the world didn't end. Notice that you just proved to yourself that you can handle being seen. That's how this changes, one small act of courage at a time. Subscribe as you commit to this transformation, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and comment below, which pattern hit hardest for you? I want to hear what landed. You deserve to stop performing and start living.